workmates, some of my bosses, asking me about this girl called Rose, you know what I mean? And I'm like, hey yo, I'm not even looking there, you feel me? There's all this jazz about she's not my type and whatnot, and it was when I started seriously praying about my my destiny partner that God started revealing me to myself. I like to use that phrase because as much as I was praying for my partner,
you needed some work.
I needed a lot of work. Okay, and
praise the Lord.
Glory to God, hallelujah. And so
you
God,
can imagine if I married that work. I was just going to be doing this right now. Anyways,
you would have lost a lot of weight. Yeah. So anyways,
yes.
God flipped the script on me and started showing me, the deficiencies in my heart.
Wow.
And that took me into a space where now everything, moved from being about me to being about Him and His plan and His intent for my life. What He needed to do in my life, where He was taking me. Now you see, that's the thing, because if you have a skewed vision of your future,
that's deep right there.
It's very easy for you to accommodate the wrong individual because you have a distorted vision of where God is taking you. But when God shows you where He's taking you, it's very easy for you to identify who you should go with.
Which bus to jump on.
That's it.
If you're going to, my goodness, that's deep right there.
And that's where now the new list came into the picture. Remember inspired by where God was taking me. So the list that now started coming was not coming because of my own desires.
Your selfish desires.
Exactly. Okay. It was coming because now I had a renewed vision of where God wanted me to go. And now I knew, or I at least had a clear view of what my destiny partner should look like. Okay, the kind of traits that they needed to possess and so on and so forth. That's how I came up with that list. And lo and behold, the next minute I know I'm looking under my nose and
the light-skinned girl
red peaches in the building.
Meanwhile, I was on the floor.
I'm like,
declaring, praying to
man,
Jesus. I need a
where
man,
you been?
a man of God. Anyways, a story for another day. So thank you so much for that.
No problem.
I think it's important, like you said, to make sure that whatever list you have, if the six-pack, how will the six-pack help you to fulfill your assignment?
Exactly. When the six-pack turns into a one-pack,
1.5 pack,
are you still gonna be?
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's very important. He did have a list, but that list was inspired by his selfish desires until he went and approached God. God changed the way he was looking at that list, and God told him, about what he was supposed to look for in a woman. And guess what? God fulfilled what he was looking for. Hallelujah.
Can I just add that only God knows the kind of partner that you need for where you are going.
Wow. Only God knows the kind of partner that you need. Because
you don't know
where you're there.
Exactly. But God has been there. Because I promise you, if it were up to me, I would have written you off on the first day. I would have been like, like this come a traditional church type girl. I've never heard her speak in tongues, cast out devils, you know what I mean? How is she gonna support me? But God who saw my future,
and saw my future.
That's it.
Hallelujah.
He knew what he was going to make out of you. He knew what I would need in the future and positioned you correctly, so I could be able to, allow you to take your space in my life. So if you don't have that relationship with God and that visibility, there's no way you will make the right decision.
No way.
Because you will make a decision based on what you're seeing with your eyes, what you're hearing,
watched, what you think and imagine that doesn't exist.
Exactly. You will make your decision based on the now instead of making a decision based on where God is taking you.
And sorry, babes, just to also add on what you said earlier about positioning yourself. Like, it's a story for another day, but I thought I should chip this in. By the time God was dealing with him, God was also dealing with me. Right. Because I like to say that, obviously when we were friends, I was in a relationship for 8 years and I was comfortable. I was ready to get married to my ex because I thought I loved him so much, and little did I know that obviously for me, I didn't even have a picture of marriage and so on and so forth. And I didn't involve God in that relationship, but I expected God to work in that relationship. So the moment I surrendered to God, God asked me to let go of that relationship. And obviously 8 years, but I had to let go. But guess what happened? After that relationship, I put relationships on pause. I said, God, 8 years, I'm hurt. So what I want to do is just to focus on serving you so that you can reveal me to me, So by the time you were doing those prayers, I was also positioning myself in the presence of God, praying, fasting. I was 27, I wasn't desperate about nothing. I was like, God, I don't want any gym, any jack to come and, propose to me. I spent that time praying, and guess what? By the time God removed the scales from his eyes, there I was. Now you can imagine if you haven't positioned yourself. Your man maybe is actually ready. But exactly. He can't see you. John Cena on them. So anyways, we'll move on. Thank you so much for that.
Problem.
I'm trying to group some of them, so I hope I manage. The next question is, all right. So, is entering a relationship without being in love advisable with openness to grow in love as a lady?
Okay, interesting question. Entering into a relationship without being in love.
So for example, I don't feel you. Yeah. Then you come and I'm like, okay,
let's give it a shot.
Let's give it a shot. I don't love you, but I'll grow in love because love is commitment. Yeah. So is it advisable?
No.
Okay.
It's dangerous.
Okay.
It's dangerous because remember that from the get-go, what's your motivation for getting into a relationship? Matter of fact, you might want to define some of these things. Like if you say love, how are you defining love? If you have a healthy definition of what love is in that particular instance, then it becomes easier for you to make a decision. Anyways, the broader picture is this. There are a couple of other elements that you might want to consider, like some of the things we spoke about in response to the other question, that you might want to put into perspective before you can make the decision to relate with somebody. Because it is possible that, after seeking the face of God, that God might lead you a certain direction.
Correct.
Based on where he wants to take you. So now you might not feel the love, you might not feel going in that particular direction, but the Spirit of God might lead you there. Okay? So that there's a possibility.
And you will know that
exactly.
the Spirit of God is leading you. You won't have doubts. Maybe you might have doubts about whether or not you love him, but you will know that you are obeying God's instruction. Then after that, obviously, God will sustain.
That's it. Yeah. But if it's just some flimsy, he's pestering me too much, let me give him a chance.
He's a good guy.
You don't want to do that. Because, why aren't you in love with him? That's the other question you might want to. There's a reason why you are not all that into him. Could it be that he's not so much of a Christian? Could it be that maybe he takes a little wine for the digestion of the stomach or something like that? You know, you never know. But you know, so you might when you ask yourself why, you know, you feel a certain way, it might answer certain questions.
And I can guarantee you know why.
Exactly.
You know, just be honest with yourself and say, why don't I like him? You know, which leads me to another question.
Yes, please.
About appearance, all right? So it says, what would you say about not being comfortable with your boyfriend's appearance? I know maybe one of the reasons, not that it's connected to the other question, but I think one of the reasons that the ladies have is that sometimes they can love a guy, but they feel, you know,
he's not all that.
So but what can you say about that? What would you say about not being comfortable with your boyfriend's appearance, because you want to put him on your DP and stuff like that? But then if you know you're expecting a 6-pack and then there's 1.5,
life is beautiful.
Like
Life.
Pastor Mumba likes to say.
Reverend.
Reverend Mumba, thank you. You always correct me. What Reverend Mumba likes to say, that he has a one ear on his chest. Yes. So what can you say about that?
Yeah, I mean that's very common, by the way. I know ladies that are married now that never used to think highly of their husband's looks. You know, I know quite a number of them. Interestingly, a few of them back in the day when I used to talk to a lot of girls that would be in relationships. You know, some of them will actually receive a lot of pressure from their circle of friends. You know, where they feel that the girl like is really fly. You know, and yet the guy that she's sort of like entertaining doesn't, you know, he's like Beauty and the Beast, something like that, you know what I mean? Yeah, so you'd find that they have all these questions because, you know, the man appears a certain way. Listen, the physical appearance, you know, is important, you know, but it's not critical.
Great.
Okay? It's not critical because beauty is passing, you know, charm is deceitful, you know, it's got an expiry date.
Yes, very
You
true.
could be, you know, the flyest chick on the block, you could be like, you know, the most charming dude, you know, beefcake, whatever. It will expire at some point. So what happens beyond the expiry date? Okay, what happens when, you know, God forbid your partner gets involved in a funny accident, you know, and they're disfigured, you know what I mean? So that doesn't necessarily say that you should close your eyes before you get married, just do any, mini, miny, mo and pick on any Jim and Jack. Physical attributes are important, but not critical. So first and foremost, let's focus on the critical elements. You know, is the brother have an income? You know, is he going to take care of you? Does he have a vision? Is he going somewhere? You know, so if all of that is tick, 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 my friend, handsome ni patumba. Let the brother, you know, bring him in the house, you know, buy him a couple of jackets or something like that. You know, buy him one of those nice creams or whatever. His face is gonna light up a little bit, and you know, you will live happily ever after. You know, it's not a critical matter of fact. The truth of the matter is this: that dude, if at all every other box is tick 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 tick, I promise you, if you let him go, your best friend is going to pick him.
And wash him.
That's it. And the next minute you'll be admiring. Awama.
And you'll be like, man, that friend of mine.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
That one was supposed to be my husband.
My husband. And yet you neglected him because of his big nose. And his big nose, the moment he gains weight, it will align. The nose will align with the rest of the body. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. And sometimes appearance is maybe about the way he matches his clothes. I remember my husband, like, you know, when we met, he was, you know, we are both rappers, you know, and by then we are so much of hip hop heads.
Yeah, and you couldn't see me behind my outfits.
Do you want to say a bit more about that?
I used to wear baggy jeans, you know, like torties. Remember them torties?
For those that are non-hip hop heads, what is a tortie?
A tortie is a very tall t-shirt.
And
will
huge,
go all the way
like
past.
a boo-boo.
That's it right there. All the way past the knees. It will be like this big dress. Baggy jeans, fitted hats.
With a white
stuff like
afro.
Yeah, Afro, you know.
And what that thing you call?
Yeah, what you call that thing? Headband, skull caps, everything, you know.
And like you'll be chewing gum all the time.
and
You know,
very
like God obey, like says
Speaking
that
in Bonix.
you know, he used to wonder why this dude always chews gums, you know, and it was a noise maker. You know
That's
what I mean? And I think that's why maybe those 5 girls, you know, rejected him.
They were like, no way.
How would I take him to my parents? And was very confident, you know, like those excited young men, like who feel like the whole world is on their, you know, under their feet kind of thing. But guess what? When you fell in love, like when you look at him, people won't even, like people are surprised. Say, is he the same Gabby?
Haircut, clean shaven, you know what I mean?
You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to say is like what my husband was saying is looks, dressing, whatever. So some of the people say like, I don't, you know, it doesn't smell good, he has a bad breath and stuff. All those things you can work at them, you know what I mean, in a very nice way. Like, you know, anyways, story for another day. We move on.
Yes, please.
Okay, so now let's move into the relationship now. That was before the relationship.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about issues of being supportive to your partner and issues of submission.
Okay.
So the first one is about being supportive to your partner. How does one give advice to their partner without seeming like they're not being supportive or not believing in their dreams or aspirations? You know, how can one give advice? How can a lady give advice to a man without feeling, you know, I'm not proud of you, you know, you are this and that and so on? Like, how would a man, like, what's the best way of giving advice to a man that will make him feel supportive?
Okay, I'm trying to contextualize the question, because
If you're giving me advice, say about my, you know, maybe my ministry,
Yes.
business endeavors,
Your plans.
my plans in life. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that unless you're attaching elements that maybe question what I'm doing, question my pursuits or my decisions.
Okay.
So I'm guessing that it's coming from there, so that you give advice and yet not appear as though you are questioning the individual's decisions. I think words of affirmation, like continually reaffirming the like your partner, whether it's the man speaking to the woman or vice versa. You want to constantly reaffirm the fact that, you know, you believe in what they're doing. You believe in their dreams, especially when you're giving constructive criticism. You know, you don't just want to jump, you know, into the conversation and say, you know, I don't like the way, you know, that you do this, the way that you do that. You know, like you didn't come to me to tell me to say, I don't like the way you dress.
I didn't say you're going to embarrass me.
Yeah, you know. I think you accommodated my wild side, knowing that you had a master plan. You know what I
I'm
mean?
just like looking at you, I'm like, okay, this is a good project. We're going to sort it out.
Yeah.
But you didn't even realize, right?
Not at all. Just woke up, next minute I know all my clothes are gone. New clothes. Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, so you want to reassure your partner to say that you believe in what they're doing, you believe in their dreams. I think there's no better way to give advice than, you know, when you are coming from a place of reaffirming someone.
Okay.
Secondly, you want to be sensitive about the timing.
Okay.
Because sometimes people give advice, good advice, at the wrong time, you know,
and maybe wrong place as well.
Exactly, you know, and maybe, and sometimes they bring up the conversation, you know, when it's not, you know, it's like a bit of a sticky kind of situation, you know. So you want to pick the time when you are giving advice to your partner. You're reaffirming them. You're picking a time when they're joyful, you know, they're not really like dealing with certain uncertainties and so on and so forth. And then you also don't want to be that broken record, where saying the same thing over and over again. If it's a matter that you have tabled and they don't seem to be buying into it, maybe it's time to escalate the issue. Escalate to God ultimately in prayer. But if you have mentors, people that you are accountable to, raise it and say, well, I'm thinking that maybe this decision that my partner is making is not really helping them as much. Are you able to intervene so we have a conversation around it? If it's something that's worth fighting for, is it something that we should be spending sleepless nights about? Because sometimes in relationships, you may, start bickering about very flimsy things that may not even be as important, but it's very easy for them to get blown out of proportion. But if it's a super contentious matter, then perhaps it's time to seek counsel. It's time to seek intervention from maybe older people that could give you God.
Mentors, God, great.
Yeah.
So in line with this, what things can a woman do that show that she supports her man?
Okay. I think it's, I mentioned a couple of things there. Number one, constantly reaffirming the brother to say, I believe in what you're doing. I'll give an example. If the brother is a poet, okay, you want to make sure that you're showing interest. If at all he is
the businessman.
Is a businessman. You want to ask questions about the business. When he starts sharing about his plans, you want to look interested. Brother doesn't want to share stuff that's very close to his heart, and then you seem disengaged. That communicates something to him, whether directly or indirectly, that maybe you may not be as interested and you don't support his idea. So you want to look engaged, you want to ask the right questions. Matter of fact, you want to do your own research around whatever his area of interest, so that even when you're having conversation, you're making some meaningful contribution towards that conversation. That way it registers interest, especially in the formative days of your relationship. You want to make sure that you register that interest, so that building on from that, even when you are beginning to ask difficult questions, like why are you spending this kind of money on this project and that project, the person knows to say that you are not questioning them because you don't believe in their dream, but you're questioning them because